It's no secret that the 2024 offseason is going to be a big one for the franchise of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the franchise's owner, Art Rooney II, sat down with Steelers media on Monday to discuss the future of the franchise and some of its biggest names in the organization. Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and on today's show, we're going to be talking about and breaking down everything Art Rooney had to talk about in his recent interview with Steelers media. We'll be talking about what he said about the Steelers' offensive coordinator search that's currently ongoing. Well, I'll break down what he said about Mike Tomlin's future with the organization as head coach. We'll talk about the quarterback situation, both what he said about Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph heading into the 2024 offseason, and then also talking about his playoff frustrations, not getting a playoff win for the better half of a decade at this point. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because when the Steelers hire their new offensive coordinator, we're going to be going live with breaking news coverage. And not only for that offensive coordinator hire, every time they make a signing, every time they make a trade, every time they make a big move and there's a breaking news story for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we're going to be going live right here on Steelers Talk. We also have extensive NFL free agency and 2024 NFL draft coverage for your Pittsburgh Steelers every single day right here on the channel. We got a weekly live show every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And oh yeah, it's all 100% free. So if you want to join the largest Steelers Talk community here on YouTube, go ahead, click that subscribe button right now. And let's get into what Art Rooney had to say this time about the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive coordinator search. It's Mike's hire, talking about Mike Tomlin. Head coaches hire their coordinators, and it would be a mistake for me to try to screw up the lines of authority in terms of how things are supposed to work. So what he's saying here is that there was some speculation that Art Rooney might be the one that goes over Mike Tomlin's head, and he would be the one to hire the offensive coordinator this time around, because let's face it, Mike Tomlin has missed on his last couple of offensive coordinator hires, but what he's saying right here is that he's confirming it will be Mike Tomlin's decision, and he trusts the head coach to make the right call here. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. What is your confidence level in Mike Tomlin to hire the right offensive coordinator? Put it on a scale of 1 to 10 for me down there in the comment section for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, go down in the comment section, find that pinned comment at the top of the comment section, and answer today's question. So now we shift to what Art had to say on Mike Tomlin and his future with the team. He says the players still respond to Mike, and that's number one. He can keep the attention of 20-year-olds for a whole season and keep them in the fight the whole way. If I don't feel Mike could lead us to a championship, he wouldn't be here. And I absolutely share this sentiment with Art Rooney II here, where I absolutely believe Mike Tomlin is a fantastic leader, and that really is the number one thing that you need from your head coach. All right, now, of course, they need to get an offensive coordinator to lead the offense and get the most out of this roster. That's a given, but, the number one thing that the head coach needs to do is lead the entire locker room. That's what he's done. No one does it better than Mike Tomlin, in my opinion. If they can get the right offensive coordinator to call the offense, then things are really going to be rolling with this coaching staff, in my opinion. Now, coming up here, what did Art Rooney have to say about Kenny Pickett? Will he be returning in 2024? I had some very interesting things to say about Mr. Pickett. But before we get into that, check out our friends at Fanatics. And listen, man, we all know TJ Watt deserves to be Defensive Player of the Year over the Cleveland Steamers edge rusher, Myles Garrett. Okay, we all know that. But if you think TJ Watt is one of the best defensive players, not only in Pittsburgh Steelers history, but NFL history, they got this awesome TJ Watt t-shirt for you to enjoy today. If you love Steelers t-shirts, if you love wearing Steelers gear all throughout the season and all throughout the year, this is really the best time to go do it, because off-season deals are just starting. You can get the best deals on some of this awesome Steelers apparel. You can get this awesome TJ Watt t-shirt from our friends at Fanatics when you go to chatsports.com/TJ. If you use that link, that'll let them know that we sent you, and we appreciate all of your guys' support. Then we get to what Art had to say on quarterback Kenny Pickett here, and he says, we still feel comfortable with Kenny, but we can't discount what Mason did and can't discount the fact that having competition at quarterback will be good for everybody. So the translation there is that Kenny Pickett is most likely going to be back as the team's starting quarterback in 2024, but that they're probably going to be signing some sort of quote-unquote high-end backup to somebody that they trust to start in case Kenny Pickett stinks in the new offensive coordinator scheme. They want a very solid plan B, but they're still holding out hope that Kenny Pickett can be the franchise quarterback they thought they were getting when they drafted him 20th overall in the 2022 NFL draft. Now, I think that there's two ways to view quarterback competition, because what it seems like the Steelers are going to do is that they're going to have Pickett and they're going to bring in a good veteran backup quarterback to quote-unquote compete with him. And I think there's two ways that you can look at quarterback competition. First viewpoint is what I think the Steelers view quarterback competition as, and that's that it brings out the best in people. Competition pushes people beyond what they would normally do, and they're hoping that Kenny Pickett, with somebody, a very solid starting capable player coming in here to be his backup to compete with them, is going to push him to become a legitimate starting quarterback in this league, and that the more people are being pushed, the better for the organization. Now, the second viewpoint, and I think that I resonate more with this second viewpoint, is that if you have multiple starting quarterbacks, you don't have any starting quarterbacks. And this viewpoint definitely argues that a team needs to have one leader in the locker room, somebody that the entire group and the entire team can rally behind. And I think I subscribe to this one, the number two viewpoint here, because really, if you have two starting quarterbacks, I mean, it's hard for a locker room to really latch on and kind of follow one guy. Not to mention, if you have two starting quarterbacks, there's not one that's clearly the favorite and clearly the better quarterback. And of course, if you want to win Super Bowls in this league, you have to have that bona fide starter, somebody that's going to be your franchise quarterback. And right now, it doesn't seem like the Pittsburgh Steelers have that. Now, pick a side for me down there in the comment section. Which viewpoint do you resonate with more? Do you agree with viewpoint one, where quarterback competition is a good thing, or viewpoint two, where if you have two starting quarterbacks, you really don't have any? Let me know down there in the comment section how you feel about quarterback competition for the 2024 season here in Pittsburgh. And the last thing that we'll talk about here when it comes to this Art Rooney interview is how he feels about Mason Rudolph. And he has this to say about Rudy. Mason Rudolph came in and showed what we're capable of when we do get quality quarterback play. And we're interested in bringing Mason back. And then talking specifically about the playoff win drought here in Pittsburgh. Of course, it's been multiple years here since the Steelers have had a playoff win. We've had enough of this. It's time to get some wins. It's time to take these next steps. There's some urgency there for sure. So let me get this straight, Art Rooney. Let me get this straight, okay? So you say you're sick and tired of losing in the playoffs, yet pretty much in the same breath, you're saying we want to bring back the two quarterbacks that have led to no playoff wins. That's a little bit weird to me. Maybe you should go out and get a different quarterback that can actually get you some freaking playoff wins instead of sticking with Mason Rudolph, who just put up an 80.0 quarterback rating in a playoff game against a legitimate playoff opponent. It seems to me like if you want to win in the playoffs, guys, you don't go with Mason Rudolph. You don't go with Kenny Pickett, two guys that are definitely limited in terms of their ability to win playoff games. And listen, I appreciate everything that Mason Rudolph did for this team this year. All right, I think he's a good, decent quarterback in this league, a good spot starter, good bridge guy, but I don't think he's good enough to lead a team to a Super Bowl as a starting quarterback, especially in the AFC with guys like Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, Lawrence coming up, Herbert coming up, all these guys, super weapon quarterbacks. I don't think Rudolph can compete, but he's also too good and too beloved by the fans to keep up as a backup, in my opinion, because let's say Kenny Pickett is the starter, Mason Rudolph is the backup, which seems to be the Steelers' plan. Every time Kenny Pickett makes a bad throw, the fans are going to be cheering and ranting for Mason Rudolph to be put in the game, and that's not good for Kenny Pickett's development whatsoever. So my take on this, just let Mason walk. I appreciate everything that he did, but he's not good enough to be a starter, and he's too beloved by the fans and frankly too good of a quarterback to be a true backup here in Pittsburgh. So some of the backup options that if you're really dead set on keeping Kenny Pickett that you can go out and get, Jacoby Brissett would be an excellent one. Gardner Minshew, another one that has plenty of playing experience. Ryan Tannehill, especially if they go out and get Arthur Smith as their next head coach. Tyrod Taylor and Sam Darnold are all options for the Pittsburgh Steelers as a backup quarterback, and none of these guys have kind of the panache that Mason Rudolph has as somebody that led this team to a playoff run in 2023. And listen, the way that I feel about this is that if Art Rooney really meant what he said and he's done losing in the playoffs, he'd take a big swing at the quarterback position and go out and try to win a Super Bowl right now. But it seems like that's not what they want to do. So personally, what I would do is I'd go out and get one of these 5 guys, all right? I would prefer Russell Wilson. That'd be my number 1 guy because there's a clause in his contract that would allow him to sign for the vet minimum here in Pittsburgh. All right, and then Denver would be on the hook for the rest of his 2024 salary that he would have made with the Broncos. So he'd be making $35+ million for the season, and the Steelers would only have to pay about $1.6 million of that. Russell Wilson, top 10 in passer rating last year, isn't as cooked as people think he is. I would absolutely love Russell Wilson as the starting quarterback of this team, but it seems like they want to go with Kenny Pickett. The only other quarterback that I think is good enough to straight up replace Pickett that's gettable for the Steelers is Justin Fields, but who knows how everything like that is going to end up this offseason, right? Will he be traded to Atlanta? Will the Steelers even be interested? All these different factors. And then Jacoby Brissett, Ryan Tannehill, and Gardner Minshew are my top 3 backup options, where if you want to bring in competition for Kenny Pickett, you really can't go wrong with any one of those 3. All 3 of them I would trust as a starter if Kenny Pickett stinks once again in 2024. So what's the right call here? Let me know down there in the comment section. Should the Pittsburgh Steelers be giving Kenny Pickett another shot? Has he earned that 3rd year here as the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Type yes or type no. Let me know what you think down there in the comment section. And that'll be it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for all of your support. Again, make sure you're subscribed to the channel because whenever the Steelers come out with their new offensive coordinator, we're going to be going live, and not only for that, but for every single breaking news story throughout the 2024 offseason. So I'll see you guys later, and until next time, here we go, Steelers.